Hey there, Miss McCurdy here, and I'm going to be reading you Chapter 7 and Chapter 8 of Charlotte's Web today. Both are very short chapters, so we get to read two. Chapter 7, Bad News. Wilbur liked Charlotte better and better each day. Her campaign against insects seemed sensible and useful. Hardly anybody around the farm had a good word to say for a fly. Flies spent their time pestering others. The cows hated them. Mr. and Mrs. Zuckerman were always complaining about them and putting up screens. Wilbur admired the way Charlotte managed. He was so particularly glad that she always put her victims to sleep before eating them. "It's real thoughtful of you to do that, Charlotte," he said. "Yes," she replied in her sweet musical voice. "I always give them an anesthetic so they won't feel pain. It's a little service I throw in." As the days went on, Wilbur grew and grew. He ate 3 big meals a day, and he spent long hours lying on his side, half asleep, dreaming pleasant dreams. He enjoyed good health, and he gained a lot of weight. One afternoon, when Fern was sitting on her stool, the oldest sheep walked into the barn and stopped to pay a call on Wilbur. "Hello," she said. "Seems to me you've been putting on some weight." "Yes, I guess I am," replied Wilbur. "At my age, it's a good idea to stop gaining." "Just the same, I don't envy you," said the old sheep. "You know what they're fattening you up for, don't you?" "No," said Wilbur. "Well, I don't like to spread bad news," said the sheep. "But they're fattening you up because they're going to kill you, that's why." "They're going to what?" screamed Wilbur. Fern grew rigid on her stool. "Kill you, turn you into smoked bacon and ham," continued the old sheep. "Almost all young pigs get murdered by the farmers as soon as the real cold weather settles in. There's a regular conspiracy around here to kill you at Christmas time. Everybody in this plot, Lurvy, Zuckerman, even John Arbel." "Mr. Arbel," sobbed Wilbur. "Fern's father?" "Certainly. When a pig is to be butchered, everybody helps. I'm an old sheep. I see the same thing, same old business year after year. Arbel arrives with his .22, shoots the..." "Stop!" screamed Wilbur. "I don't want to die. Save me, somebody save me." Fern was just about to jump up when a voice was heard. "Be quiet, Wilbur," said Charlotte, who had been listening to this awful conversation. "I can't be quiet," screamed Wilbur, racing up and down. "I don't want to be killed. I don't want to die. Is this true that the old sheep says, Charlotte? Is it true? Are they going to kill me when the cold weather comes?" "Well," said the spider, plucking thoughtfully at her web, "the old sheep has been around this barn a long time. She's seen many a spring pigs come and go. If she says they plan to kill you, I'm sure it's true. It's also the dirtiest trick I've ever heard of. What people don't think of." Wilbur burst into tears. "I don't want to die," he moaned. "I want to stay alive right here in my comfortable manure pile with all my friends. I want to breathe the beautiful air and lie in the beautiful sun." "You're certainly making a beautiful noise," snapped the old sheep. "I don't want to die," screamed Wilbur, throwing himself to the ground. "You shall not die," said Charlotte briskly. "What? Really?" cried Wilbur. "Who's going to save me?" "I am," said Charlotte. "How?" said Wilbur. "That remains to be seen, but I'm going to save you, and I want you to quiet down immediately. You're carrying on in a childish way. Stop your crying. I can't stand hysterics." Okay, so that was Chapter 7, Bad News. So what do you think the bad news was? Yeah, bad news was that the sheep shared with Wilbur that they were going to butcher him and kill him to make ham and pork chops and things like that. So how do you think Charlotte's going to save him? Let's see. Chapter 8, A talk at home. On Sunday morning, Mr. and Mrs. Arble and Fern were sitting at breakfast in the kitchen. Arvie had finished up and was upstairs looking for his slingshot. "Did you know that Uncle Homer's goslings have hatched?" asked Fern. "How many?" asked Miss Arble. "7," replied Fern. "There were 8 eggs, but 1 egg didn't hatch, and the goose told Templeton she didn't want it anymore, so she took it away." "The goose did what?" asked Miss Arble, gazing at her daughter with a queer, worried look. "Told Templeton she didn't want the egg anymore," repeated Fern. "Who is Templeton?" asked Miss Arble. "Oh, he's the rat," replied Fern. "None of us like him that much." "Who is us?" asked Miss Arble. "Oh, everybody in the barn cellar. Wilbur and the sheep and the lambs and the goose and the gander and the goslings and Charlotte and me." "Charlotte," said Mrs. Arble. "Who's Charlotte?" "Oh, well, she's Wilbur's best friend. She's terribly clever." "Well, what does she look like?" asked Mr. Arble. "Well, said Fern thoughtfully. "She has 8 legs. All spiders do, I guess." "Charlotte is a spider?" asked Fern's mother. Fern nodded. "A big gray one. She has a web across the top of Wilbur's doorway, and she catches flies and sucks their blood. Wilbur adores her." "Does he really?" Mrs. Arble rather vaguely. She was staring at Fern with a worried expression on her face. "Oh, yes, Wilbur adores Charlotte," said Fern. "Do you know what Charlotte said when the goslings hatched?" "I haven't the faintest idea," said Mrs. Arble. "Tell us." "Well, when the first gosling stuck its little head out from under the goose, I was sitting on my stool in the corner and Charlotte was on her web. She made a speech. She said, 'I'm sure that every one of us here in the barn cellar will be gratified to learn that after 4 weeks of unremitting effort and patience on the part of the goose, she now has something to show for it.' Don't you think that was a pleasant thing for her to say?" "Yes, I do," said Fern's mother. "And now, Fern, it's time to get ready for Sunday school. And tell Avery to get ready. And this afternoon you can tell me more about what goes on at Uncle Homer's barn. Aren't you spending quite a lot of time there? You go there almost every afternoon, don't you?" "I like it there," said Fern. She wiped her mouth and ran upstairs. After she had left the room, Miss Arable spoke in a low voice to her husband. I'm worried about Fern," she said. "Did you hear the way she rambled on about the animals pretending like they talked?" Mr. Arble chuckled. "Maybe they do talk," he said. "I've sometimes wondered. At any rate, I don't worry about Fern. She's got a lively imagination. Kids think they hear all sorts of things." "Just the same, I do worry about her," replied Miss Arable. "I think I shall ask Dr. Dorian about her the next time I see him. He loves Fern almost as much as we do, and I want him to know how queerly she is acting about the pig and everything. I don't think it's normal. You know perfectly well animals don't talk." Mr. Arble grinned. "Maybe our ears aren't as sharp as Fern's," he said. Okay. Thank you for joining along.